Black Clover is the fifth most watched anime franchise on Netflix in the second half of 2024, garnering around 138 million views across the 170 episode show and the feature film that we got. So it's pretty clear that Black Clover is widely beloved. So today we're going to be talking about something massive that Black Clover fans have been dying to hear for years at this point. Yep, we're finally getting some real signs that the Black Clover anime could be making a comeback, and it's looking like AnimeJapan 2025 is where it's all going to be happening. So guys, it's been a long wait. The manga also just hit its 10-year anniversary last month. That's a full decade. So let's talk about all the details that we might be getting at AnimeJapan 2025, and even if they're not talking about the details there, let's start to speculate, because this is fun, man. This is what I like to do. So I didn't know what AnimeJapan was, but apparently it's basically the E3 of anime. If you guys even remember what that was, it's the place where all the biggest announcements drop. But even recently, AnimeJapan 2025 held a poll in which, people got to vote on the manga that they'd like to see animated the most, with Nue's Exorcist for some reason winning that poll. But yeah, this is basically where a lot of anime discussions take place, and it's it's an in-person thing. There's various stages and a lot of anime announcements happen there. You got previews dropped and you got announcements made even for the anniversary and things like that, anniversary projects and things like that. And on that note, on March 22, 23, and 24, right? 2025, obviously this year, which is really right around the corner if you think about it, Studio Pierrot has confirmed a major presence, right? And you know that something big is coming, because if you know Studio Pierrot, they work on some of the greatest, some of the most popular animes. So let's talk about what Studio Pierrot is, and more importantly, what I talked about earlier, which is the Studio Pierrot film division, right? It's a completely new evolution of the studio, and it could, give us a glimpse as to how exactly the animation quality is going to improve on Black Clover potentially. So you probably know what Studio Pierrot is, but let me break it down anyway. These guys have been in the game since 1979 and basically have shaped what shonen anime is today, right? Their resume is crazy. Naruto and Shippuden, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho, of course, Black Clover, and then you also had Boruto, and you also have things like Akatsuki no Yona, and more infamously, Tokyo Ghoul, right? So it's been a big resume, and they've done some legendary things, right? But let's be honest though, if you think about Pierrot, their reputation, well, it's always a hit or miss, right? Because they're known for pumping out episodes weekly for years. Something's gotta give. If you don't know, they're also the studio behind the Kingdom anime, and well, that's an unfortunate story, almost as unfortunate as the Tokyo Ghoul stories. And same thing with Twin Star Exorcists, and of course Black Clover. So and of course you've seen the crazy Boruto stills from the anime, right? So yeah, they've had a problem. They've had a quality problem for forever. And honestly, while it might have been acceptable in an older age, in the current age of anime production, where you have your Jujutsu Kaisens and your Demon Slayers, it's really just not gonna cut it, especially for big titles like we have for the big three, and of course Black Clover and Boruto, which are still pretty big. But something has changed. Like I hinted at earlier, the Bleach 1000 Year Blood War production has been fantastic, especially with part 3. So what happened? There's been a revolution. There's been something game-changing that's been happening at Studio Pierrot, and while on the outside it might look like nothing really big has happened, I think it is a cornerstone as to the reason as to why things might be looking really up for us. So here's where things get really interesting. Studio Pierrot created a new division called Pierrot Films, and their entire focus was on quality over quantity. And this happened somewhere around the middle of 2024. Right? It's not just a small change. I think it's more of a philosophy shift is what I would call it. In an interview with Men's No magazine, I think it's what it's called, the division head basically said, we're done with rushing out episodes every week that compromise on quality. They're going to take their time to make every frame count, right? That's kind of what I'm getting from this interview. During another interview with NHK, I believe the same person said that budget and time are no longer restrictions, right? They're no longer excuses, especially when talking about Bleach's return with part 3. So it is a big difference, and this is why we need to set our expectations at a higher level, because it's them that's giving us these expectations, right? Like, I feel like they're committed to artistic excellence above all else. They have to be, because they're moving away from the constraints of weekly schedules that force compromises, and they're like adopting a more deliberate approach to animation. And this is, I don't know if you've been on the internet for long enough to listen to anime fans talk about it, but this is exactly what we've been asking for, right? This is the modern approach to anime production: seasonal releases, higher quality, right? Like, forget about weekly episodes that go on for years and years. Like, yes, even this person acknowledges it in the interview, but it's great to have consistent, like, oh, you can come back to this every week for years, but at the same time, it's like, well, I want that, but also good looking quality. And if I don't get quality, I'd rather not have that repetitive episode recurring nature of the episodes, because these are not conducive to that kind of storytelling, right? It's not like a villain a week kind of an episode where like plot doesn't matter. It's a very specific intentional storytelling that goes on in these manga, and of course I'm glad that this is the decision that they've taken, right? And for a long running series like Black Clover with very big story arcs, especially for the upcoming Spade arc that they need to adapt, this is the best news, right? So they're going to be giving the treatment that they deserve, which is basically why, this whole thing was set up. And honestly, Bleach 1000 Year Blood War Part 3 is the proof for that, right? Look at what they did with this. Part 1 and 2, definitely looked good. People definitely took notice, because I think Akudama Drive's director, or at least, somebody from Akudama Drive definitely jumped over to Bleach 1000 Year Blood War. But I believe, based on some news that came out a while ago, Part 3, there was no outsourcing. So what is outsourcing? Outsourcing is when the main production company, right? For example, Pierrot, outsources certain episodes to a different studio. For example, Studio Mouse, they did that a lot with Black Clover, where the in-house animators, that is Pierrot's own animators, don't actually work on the episodes because they're more involved in the more important episodes. But I don't believe that's what happened with Part 3. I believe every single episode was done in-house, because they treated every single episode with that kind of importance. Sure, some episodes may have gotten more focused than the others, but if everybody is doing it in-house, that means there's a big focus on the consistency of it, right? You're not gonna get an episode 100 in one turn, and then you're gonna get like a melty episode immediately after that, right? Which is what we've come to expect with long-running shows. But no, the consistency is key. If you can get the episodes looking very similar and go all out on the Sakuga here and there, that makes sense. But with melty episodes, well, that's going to be a problem, right? And even in Part 3, the fight choreography is fantastic. No more just static poses or reused animation, like that you can notice realistically, and character models staying consistent. I mean, all of these really require time and like really proper staffing to pull off. And I really think that Part 3 of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War actually pulled it off. Episodes were going viral. People who'd never seen Bleach, and older fans, and like people who are like not fans of Bleach too, they were able to understand like okay, yeah, something is pretty crazy. Like, we all understand how big Bleach's return has been for the series. We all know that all the people who have, not really been into Bleach like that have just been turning around on it, and the existing fans have been so, fantastically satisfied by it. The author has been a part of it. So imagine all of that that's been happening for Bleach, and then put it on Black Clover, because as great as this Spade arc is in the manga, I definitely believe that, as everyone else does, there might be some things that Tabata himself might want to tune, because he was working on it on that weekly grind, right? So let's talk about what exactly we could be seeing for Black Clover specifically. So the upcoming arc that needs adaptation for Black Clover is the remaining parts of the Spade arc, right? Now imagine, with that 138 million views on the entire Black Clover franchise, imagine all of that is supplemented with a fantastic looking show, with all of these crazy big fights for such important characters. I mean, we know that Noelle is a fan favorite. Asta, you don't even have to think about it. Yami, fan favorite, right? Like, all of these fan favorite characters. Charlotte gets her fight, Roll gets his fight, Luck gets a fight, and the Magna versus Dante fight everybody is going to go crazy. Imagine all of that in like fantastic quality. I really believe that with, you know, Pierrot films, like if this exactly is what Pierrot is going to be going for, we'll get some crazy moments with the Dark Triad going into their transformations, and like the new devils that get introduced, the plethora of new devils that get introduced as part of the gates opening 1 and 2, right? And the fantastic Noct fights. There are so many sequences that are just fantastic, that it would elevate this kid, you know, the show from like, oh yeah, that's the show with the screaming kid, to like that show with some of the best animation, you know, like that's been great. And it would be great to again be, you know, accused of being carried by animation for Black Clover, because I mean, I'd rather that right now, especially because I know that the base story is already enjoyable, right? So like, and especially for us longtime fans who've stuck with the series through thick and thin, this is the vindication that we've been waiting for. And for newer fans who may have dropped the show because of like animation issues and like Asa screaming, whatever it is, this would be the perfect time to jump back in, especially what happens with Bleach 1000 Year Blood War. And more importantly, with Bleach 1000 Year Blood War wrapping up its final part in 2026, Pierrot Films will be looking for their next major project. There are two options technically for them, Black Clover and Boruto, but with sheer amount of content that's available, I really think that Black Clover definitely makes more sense, because they have a lot more of the Spade arc to get adapted, and then they could even start the final arc. They could even have the Hino saga completed, right? Like the Hino arc completed, Land of the Sun, before jumping into the Judgment Day part of the arc, which I'm sure will take a long time to get to. But I think this is where, you know, it's an important or interesting conversation can be had. Even if the anime comes back, what would it look like? Will we be getting 10 episodes, 11, 12, 20, 21, 24? What exactly is that going to be looking like? We sure hell are not going to be getting 51 episodes like we've been getting for the first 3 seasons of the anime, right? So what exactly is that going to be looking like? And can we even predict the plot of these episodes based on the events in the manga and how they could be structured? Well, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next couple of videos that I'm going to be uploading are going to be super interesting, and one of those is definitely going to be looking into what exactly the anime might look like when it comes back. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to drop a like, and if you want more content like this, like I said, subscribe. See you.